What's going on, everybody? It's Barmine from Barmine Tech, and today we're going to be talking about backing up our home lab. So we're going to primarily be focusing on a Proxmox-based environment, but the ideas are going to carry across to anything, whether you run a VMware instance, Hyper-V, a physical server, whatever it might be. The ideas are still going to carry across, so don't worry if I see more focus on Proxmox. Some of the ideas won't carry across if you're on something different, but it still follows the same idea for backing up. I did talk about this a couple weeks ago in my home lab tour video, and I did get a comment the other day about somebody asking for a little bit more info on the backup strategy. So today we are going to talk about this because I have implemented a new backup strategy in my home lab about a month or so ago. I do work in cybersecurity, I'm a network engineer, and I focus on security mostly. And in the last couple months, we have seen a drastic number of ransomware attacks. On top of these ransomware attacks, there's just ongoing 0 days, malware, and everything else with the increase of vibe-coded projects and AI growth and everything else. So it's just leading to constant security threats from pretty much everywhere. Now, I'm not saying that our home labs are going to be the target of a ransomware attack or anything else, but it doesn't mean that if another person on the network clicks a bad link, opens a bad email, whatever it might be, now the whole network's cooked. I did see in a ransomware attack that we were called in to help with that the attackers are able to move laterally across the entire network. This was due to some other stuff, but they were able to move across and get the virtual environment, a PC, the backups, and pretty much everything else. This is where offsite backups would come in really handy, and this is what inspired me and a couple of my buddies to start doing offsite backups. So at least in the off chance that everything does get cooked in the office or your home lab per se, we can always pull down from the backups. Now, in a case like ransomware or even malware or anything else, if we can't confirm that everything locally is going to be safe, or we can't access everything locally, offsite backups or segmented backups would be the best way to come back from something like this. It's really the only way, by having somewhat daily backups, so you could just revert back to the last solid copy. Of course, there's other factors into there, so you'll have to do a little bit of work on your end to confirm everything's good, but today we're going to talk about everything you need to know about backups, protecting yourself, and ensuring that if you ever do lose your home lab, you can come back from it. I did make a write-up for this as well if you're interested in reading through it. I really talk about the idea of the 3-2-1. So if you're not familiar, the 3-2-1 rule is 3 copies of your data, 2 different storage medias, and 1 copy off-site. Through here, I have it primarily focused on Proxmox and using the Proxmox backup server or the backup feature that's already built into Proxmox if you don't use backup server. I do highly recommend using backup server because it's going to make your backups a lot simpler and easier to manage over time. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. But if you don't have extra hardware to run backup server, doing the standard backups will work onto something like some extra storage or network storage or whatever you might have. Again, here's the idea of the 3-2-1 idea. So the idea is that the first copy is your actual data that's running. So this would be the actual hard drives running on your Proxmox server. This is what's actually running the environment. The second copy should be a local on-site backup. This would be like your Proxmox backup server, or if you use backups through Proxmox to something like your NAS or another storage device. Similarly, if you don't use Proxmox and you use something like VMware, maybe use Veeam as their backup tool. That would be your backup solution that would save it again to your NAS or something else. Same thing with Hyper-V, or even if you run a physical box with Veeam or something similar like that. The third copy should be something off-site. Now, I know not everybody is going to be able to get something off-site, but if you have maybe your parents' house that you could drop a little mini PC off at, you could do something like a Tailscale connection or a secure VPN if you could build one out. And you could just do offsite backup straight to that little box. I use a mini PC for mine. That's what mini backup is, and we're going to talk about that. It's a mini PC, so it's a micro form factor. It has a 2 terabyte hard drive in there. I've been running it for probably 2 years. I've never had any issue with filling the drive up. It's low power. It works really well. That could be something like that's an offsite backup because you could dump that, like I said, at your parents' house. Maybe you have a friend that's willing to keep it plugged in for you. Since it's low power, it won't have a lot of additional costs. Or if you don't want to do something like that, or maybe that's not an option, you can rent a cloud server or a VPS to dump storage into. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more as well. But this is just the idea of some offsite backup. So we're going to take a look at my Proxmox environment, and we're going to talk about this a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong. If I was to lose my Proxmox environment, there's some critical data on here that I would really be bummed if I lost, like my Vault Warden has all my passwords and a lot of other information in there. That would be a tricky one to come back from. However, other than that, there's nothing that is too serious that if I lost it, it would be a real end of the world. I have Image that if I did lose that, I still have it in iCloud. I have some other stuff like Pi-hole, Cloudflare, and Nginx Proxy Manager. If I lose them, Yeah, it would really be a bummer to rebuild them, but it's not the end of the world once again. But stuff like the physical machines, like my Docker host, over here this Mint box, Vault Warden, or this Windows 11 box, if I was to lose those, it would be a little bit more of a harder comeback from them because there is data on there that I probably don't have other copies of on my NAS or anything else. A while ago, even before I started to see an increase in ransomware and other threats, I started to do backups more often because my backup server was able to handle it. So you can see over here, I actually have 2 backup jobs, but one of them is disabled. This was something when I was doing full backup, so I would do an actual stop, and I would stop the machine and do a full backup from there. I stopped doing this because I felt that I could just do daily snapshots and it would be a little bit easier. So over here you can see this backup job is daily snapshots, and every day at 2100 it's going to do a snapshot of the VM, the LXC containers, and it saves it locally onto the Proxmox backup server. So that's where we come over here to mini backups. Now, mini backups I've been running for quite some time. This is, like I said, a mini PC that I installed Proxmox backup server on. It sits in my 10-inch rack and it does its job really well. Over here on the right side we can see the data store, and it's a 2 terabyte drive. Currently I'm using about 1 terabyte of it, and you can see over here it shows you how much you have and how long before it estimates that the disk is going to be full. I have 39 days before it estimates that my disk will be full. And if I come over here to backups, you can see over here is all my content, but on top of it we have prune and garbage collect jobs. Now if you notice over here on the count, and this is what's going to tie into those prune and garbage collect jobs, some of these containers and VMs I have 59 copies of, 30 copies of, 24 copies of, very high amounts. I have it set to keep X number of backups for my home lab to have a chance if something does happen I can revert back. So like we'll go to this container right here. So like I said, over here you can see that this container has 59 backups. And now I actually just realized something, that I do have multiple Proxmox servers. One is used for my media server and one's used for like my regular test environment. Over here you can see that Radar and Vault Warden have the same container ID. I don't think this is a serious issue, but this is one that I'm going to correct. And if you notice over here, there's namespaces. So in Proxmox backup server, we can make separate namespaces, they're called. And really, they're just acting as buckets to dump data into. So right now I'm using the root namespace. And the way to get around this is to make another namespace, as they call it, or a bucket for sense, that would represent like my mini media server where I could dump everything into here. No big deal. I will sort this out and get this all fixed. But the idea that I was going for is that I have all these backups set, and they're set to keep X number of them. I actually have them set to keep all of them. And the idea is that in this tab over here for prune and garbage collect, that I would set after however many days to actually come through and prune a number of backups out. So I would specify how many to keep of however many backup, and then from there the garbage collect will come through and it'll actually delete it, and that'll free up the storage. So this terabyte that's being used will actually cut down drastically when I'm no longer using 279 VM snapshots and 705 LXC container snapshots. But this is a way that I can keep a reasonable amount of backups locally, that if I ever do have an issue, I can come back from it. Now, you may have noticed over here on the right side that it's showing that all my backups are encrypted, and I'm doing this for a reason, because I do offsite backups like I said. So a while ago, Proxmox backup server worked to implement a way better system for remotes, as they call them. And remotes are going to be a remote PBS server that's not local. That's why it's called a remote. So over here you can see I have my remote PBS, which I also refer to as my sauce box and other stuff. The idea of this is it's a VPS that I rent. It's a storage VPS that I can do backups to and sync them up from my main backup server. So in the situation that I ever lose everything locally, or I get hit with an attack or anything else, if everything's lost locally, I could pull stuff through from my rented VPS, from my sauce box as we'll call it, and be able to pull everything back and be able to rebuild it from this mini backup server and so on. So ever have that situation where we have everything that's in here is lost, I would delete everything. I would go over to the remote PBS, pull everything through, and then I would be able to start using it. Now, a big piece of this when we start pushing stuff into other remote servers or even locally is these verify jobs, and they're super important. Now, I run mine daily, and I also run them daily on my remote PBS, and there's a reason for this, and I talk about it over here in this write-up. Now, from my understanding, the verification process checks the SHA hash of the files that are coming in. This was something that I read off of the documentation for Proxmox backup server, and it actually comes into a part with some ransomware protection. So over here is the documentation for backup server, and more specifically the verification section. Proxmox does recommend that you do verification jobs at least once a month. I do them a little bit more often just so I can always ensure that all my data is intact. So on top of doing other checks, what it's really going to do is verify that the backup that was taken from the VE environment and sent over to backup server is actually what it should be. It goes down to a bit level and goes through and verifies everything's good. Now they also have a section on ransomware protection and recovery, and you can read through this a little bit more in detail, but part of the backup server function is that as it checks through the actual backup files itself, it's going to be able to verify and see that the hashes and the bits don't match up, and it'll no longer restore those if something is affected by something like ransomware or something else. They have a whole section over here if you are interested, but Proxmox does recommend to ensure that your backups are valid, that on a monthly basis or so you go through and you restore from them to ensure that all the data is valid and that the backup does work. There are other checks in here and more information that you can read through if you are interested, and I'll link the documentation down below if you do want to read more about this. So like I said, that was a little bit of why I run these verification jobs, just to ensure that all of my data is intact, and if I do ever have some sort of situation with a ransomware attack or something similar, at least I can verify my data and I can have an idea what's good and what's not. So I do know I covered quite a few different things so far. We have our main content tab. This is where your actual backups live. We have prune and garbage collect jobs. So over here is where it's going to cut down on an old number of backups and actually delete them to free up space on the data store. Our sync job is how you can actually pull and push data between Proxmox backup servers, whether you have multiple local or you have one that you rent maybe on a VPS, a cloud environment, whatever it might be. Our verify job is how we can actually ensure that our data is intact. Another part of this whole thing of ensuring that you have a strong backup system, especially if you do have like a cloud VPS, something else connected to it, is going to be permissions. I have two other permissions over here for this account called backups at PBS. One is a data store backup, and one is for a remote sync push operator. This is for a separate account that I can log into if I need, but the permissions are super limited on this account. All they're allowed to do is run backups and do remote syncs. This is because this is the account that my remote PBS actually uses to connect back to my main PBS. This has a super strong password, and it has very limited permissions, so if it ever does get compromised, they won't be able to log into my other Proxmox server, the one on the VPS that I rent, or my local PBS server, because the credentials aren't used and they don't have permissions to. Like I said, the idea of this account was just to be able to let it handle the backups. So my remote PBS actually connects through to my local PBS with this account. It has access to both data stores, local and remote, and this is how the data flows back and forth, and this is a way to harden the security to ensure that if it ever does get compromised, they don't have full access to the rest of my network and every other device on there. It doesn't have access to the rest of the PBS server. They can't attempt to move laterally. It would make it a little bit more complicated for them. I do suggest putting up a similar setup. Of course, do your research and make sure it's what you are looking for and it's going to work for you. But segmenting accounts and hardening security is a very important idea, especially when we start to work with internet connected devices such as renting a VPS that we're permitting back in. Now, if you did notice over here, my remote PBS is using this 100 address. Now, it's not the public address, so don't worry, it's over Tailscale. So I do have Tailscale installed on both of these boxes, and that's how they connect over on a secure VPN. Because it is a cloud VPS, I could set up like a WireGuard client, but I just decided to make it a little bit easier, and I use Tailscale, and it just connects through there, and that's how it pumps my data back and forth. I know I didn't really read through this write-up today, and it's because I just didn't feel like I really had to, but it is there if you are interested in checking it out, and it has some good information if you do want to follow up on this. A couple more things I did want to talk about is the VPS services. So I do use HostHatch. I referenced it in the last video. I use one of their storage VPSs. So if I come to products, they have regular compute ones, but their storage VMs are the one that I'm using. So I'm actually using the 4TB one, I believe, because it gave me 2 cores, it gives me a little bit better RAM, and it's giving me the storage and bandwidth that I'm looking for. Starts at about $16 a month, and what I did really like about this is that I can install my own OS on here. So I was able to rent the server, I was able to install Proxmox backup server and get access to it. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that if you do go the route of using a rented VPS, it is a public server, it's out there, and everybody can see it and hit it. So security is going to be really important on there, and I'll actually show you the logs showing how often that my server gets hammered. So over here is the sys logs off my actual backup server. I did install UFW because Proxmox backup server doesn't come with a firewall built into it, so I had to do something to add some extra protection, and UFW was something that I can install and set up. I have UFW configured to only allow my public IP in for my house, and traffic that gets sent over the Tailscale interface that gets added when you set up the Tailscale connection on the VPS. It actually gets added as another interface, and that's how I was able to configure UFW to work. But if you see all these lines, these are all UFW blocks for the most part, other than a couple of syslogs from Proxmox itself. This VPS is constantly getting hit, and it's nothing to the host service or anything else. It's just how it is on these publicly hosted VPSs. I've done this in the past a couple times, and they get hammered all the time because people just scan out network segments and they go, "Oh, I found something," and they constantly try to keep hitting these boxes. This is why something like UFW or even another firewall option that you could implement is a must, especially with those segmented accounts and permissions that I was talking about before. But over here is something you can see I have that sync job, and over here it actually does a pull job. So it pulls across from my local server here at my house, and this is what goes into my VPS out here. So like I was saying, this is really just my remote PBS. It doesn't do anything other than just pull backups from my local one and store them here. I also keep them encrypted here, and you can see over here is the encrypted mark, and this is because my data is going to somebody else's server. This isn't a dedicated box just for me. It's a shared VPS. It's how these work. I don't have the coin for a dedicated one since they're like $200-300 a month. I have nothing against the shared ones, and it works really well, and here's a perfect example of what I could do with one. But this was just a whole video about how to back up your Homelab and your Proxmox environment mainly. Like I said, if you are somebody who's using a different service like VMware or Hyper-V, or even if you're running physical machines and you're using something like Veeam, it's still possible to follow a similar idea. Of course, it won't be with Proxmox backup server, but Veeam does offer a lot of good options, and they back up everything. So I do know it integrates with other solutions. It's something I use at my job. It can work with VMware. It can work with physical boxes. It can work to push it out to the cloud. You can put it in an S3 bucket. You can do whatever you want. Now, I didn't really talk about S3 buckets or any of these other cloud services because they get expensive really fast. And for the typical Homelab user, it's probably not something we're going to really need or be able to flip the bill of. Honestly, I looked once a while ago to run a server off of AWS, and honestly the price on them was just way too high for what I needed. And honestly, it's really confusing to set up because they have a lot of different options, and if you mess one option up, it could triple the price and could end up costing you a ton of money. But that's a whole separate conversation. So today we talked about how to really back up our Homelab environment, harden it a little bit more, and some of the stuff that I implemented to protect myself a little bit more in the case that I ever fall victim to an attack. Of course, like I say with anything else that relates to security and anything else like that, take some time to do some research on your own. There's a lot of different ideas out there, and mine might not be the best. You might find something that works a little bit better, and it might be a better idea for how you need to implement it. So take some time, do some research, figure out what works best for you, and don't just blindly follow others for what they do. It is your data, and we don't want it to fall into somebody else's hands. But as always, I want to thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and as my buddy Don would say, hack till it hurts.